In the long annals of American military history, a few names stand apart as symbols of courage, sacrifice, and an almost superhuman resolve in the face of overwhelming odds. Among them is John Basilone, a Marine whose story is both extraordinary and deeply human. His life, from humble beginnings to the ultimate sacrifice on the battlefield, continues to be remembered not simply because of what he achieved, but because of the spirit with which he achieved it. The tale begins decades before the Second World War, in the early 20th century, in the small town of Raritan, New Jersey. John Basilone was born on November 4, 1916, in Buffalo, New York, the sixth of 10 children in a family of Italian immigrants. His parents, Salvatore and Theodora, had come to the United States in search of opportunity, leaving behind their homeland with little more than hope and determination. They settled in New Jersey, where Salvatore worked as a tailor. Life for the Basilone family was not easy, but it was filled with discipline, Catholic faith, and the values of hard work and loyalty. For John, growing up in such a large family meant that toughness and resilience were learned early. He attended St. Bernard's Parochial School in Raritan, but academics did not capture his interest. Restless and eager for something beyond the small town life, he dropped out of school in the 8th grade. Like many boys of his generation, John longed for adventure. He worked odd jobs to help his family, including as a golf caddy, where he reportedly told golfers he was looking for something greater than routine. Unlike so many who spoke of dreams but stayed rooted in the familiar, John Basilone meant it. In 1934, at just 18 years old, John enlisted in the United States Army. He was sent to the Philippines, where he served with the 16th Infantry Regiment. The Army gave him the travel he craved, but it also revealed another side of him, a natural physical toughness and athleticism. He became known as Manila John for his boxing skills, earning a reputation as a champion fighter. Yet after 3 years, John returned home, trying his hand at civilian life. He worked as a truck driver in Maryland, but something inside him remained unsettled. The quiet life of ordinary work didn't satisfy him. By 1940, with tensions in Europe and Asia escalating toward global war, Basilone made a decision that would define his life. He enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. He believed, perhaps instinctively, that this was where he truly belonged. The Marine Corps, with its legendary reputation for discipline, toughness, and relentless combat training, was the perfect place for a restless young man determined to test himself. When war erupted after the attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, John Basilone was already in uniform, ready for the challenge. In the summer of 1942, he was assigned to the 1st Battalion, 7th Marine Regiment, part of the 1st Marine Division. Soon, he would find himself on one of the bloodiest battlegrounds in the Pacific, the island of Guadalcanal. Guadalcanal was more than a name on a map. It was the first major Allied offensive in the Pacific, launched in August 1942 to halt Japanese expansion. The island's strategic importance lay in its airfield, Henderson Field, which could dominate supply lines through the Solomon Islands. If the Japanese controlled Guadalcanal, they threatened Australia and the entire Allied effort in the Pacific. If the Americans could hold it, they would begin to turn the tide of the war. The environment was unforgiving. Marines endured sweltering heat by day, torrential rains by night, and the constant threat of malaria. Supplies were short, rations meager, and the jungle thick with danger. Japanese forces, skilled in night attacks and infiltration, seemed to appear from nowhere. For the Marines who landed on Guadalcanal, survival depended not only on courage but on discipline, endurance, and the ability to fight under conditions that sapped the body and tested the mind. It was here on Guadalcanal that John Basilone's name would be written into legend. By October 1942, he had risen to the rank of Gunnery Sergeant and commanded 2 sections of heavy machine guns. His position was critical. The Marines were ordered to defend Lunga Ridge, a line of defense just south of Henderson Field. If the Japanese broke through there, the airfield, and with it the entire campaign, could be lost. On the night of October 24th, the Japanese launched a massive assault. Over 3,000 soldiers of the Sendai Division moved through the jungle toward the Marine lines. The attack came with brutal ferocity, using human wave tactics. Mortars, grenades, and rifles lit the night with chaos. Basilone and his men fired into the darkness, mowing down attackers who seemed to rise endlessly from the jungle. The Japanese were relentless, throwing themselves forward even as their comrades fell. At times, dead bodies were used as cover for the living, a grim testimony to the determination of Japan's soldiers. During the battle, one of Basilone's machine guns jammed, threatening to open a gap in the defense. With no time to waste, Basilone did the unthinkable. He sprinted through 200 yards of open ground under heavy fire, carrying 90 pounds of ammunition and spare parts to the disabled position. He ran back and forth repeatedly, keeping the guns supplied and operational, even as bullets and shrapnel filled the air around him. In one instance, he replaced red-hot machine gun barrels with his bare hands, burning his flesh but never stopping. For nearly 3 days, Basilone fought without rest, without food, and without sleep. His fellow Marines described him as a man transformed, exhausted, dirty, bloodshot-eyed, yet utterly unstoppable. Private Nash Phillips, who fought alongside him, later recalled that Basilone had a machine gun on the go for 3 days and nights without sleep, rest, or food. Barefooted, his eyes red as fire, his face dirty black. Despite the chaos, Basilone never wavered. He gathered ammunition from fallen comrades, dragged the wounded to safety, and returned to the fight again and again. By the time reinforcements arrived, the battlefield was littered with bodies of Basilone's section. Only he and 2 others were still standing. The Marines had held the line. Basilone was credited with killing at least 38 enemy soldiers, though the true number was almost certainly far higher. More importantly, his actions had prevented a breakthrough that could have changed the entire course of the battle. For his extraordinary heroism, John Basilone was awarded the Medal of Honor, the highest recognition the United States could bestow. The citation praised his conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity, but those who knew him understood that the medal only hinted at the true measure of his sacrifice. When asked about the honor, Basilone replied simply, "Only part of this medal belongs to me. Pieces of it belong to the boys who are still on Guadalcanal." The Marine Corps, recognizing his hero status, brought Basilone home. He was tasked with a war bond tour, traveling across the country to raise money and morale. The American public embraced him as a symbol of courage. He appeared in parades, met celebrities, and helped raise millions of dollars for the war effort. Yet Basilone was uneasy in the role. He disliked the attention, feeling more comfortable in the field than in front of cameras. To him, the war was not about fame or recognition. It was about his comrades still fighting and dying in the Pacific. He was offered safety, promotions, and a secure future in Washington, but Basilone refused. He told his brother, "Without the Corps, my life means nothing." Again and again, he requested a return to combat. Finally, in 1944, his request was granted. Assigned to Company C, 1st Battalion, 27th Marines, 5th Marine Division, his destination would be one of the most infamous battles of the war, Iwo Jima. Iwo Jima was a small volcanic island, but its importance was immense. Just 750 miles from Japan, it offered airfields that American bombers could use to strike the Japanese homeland and provide emergency landing strips for damaged aircraft. The Japanese, aware of its value, fortified it with an intricate network of tunnels, bunkers, and hidden artillery. Nearly 21,000 soldiers under General Tadamichi Kuribayashi were ordered to defend it to the death. On February 19, 1945, Basilone and the 5th Marine Division stormed the beaches of Iwo Jima. The volcanic ash made movement slow and exhausting, while Japanese defences rained down machine gun fire, artillery, and mortars. Marines were cut down in staggering numbers, pinned on the beach with nowhere to hide. Basilone, true to form, took immediate action. Shouting for his men to move off the killing ground, he charged forward himself, exposing his body to enemy fire. His leadership gave courage to others, and Marines began advancing inland. At one point, he assaulted a heavily fortified blockhouse alone, crawling under fire with grenades and demolitions. He managed to destroy the position, silencing the guns that threatened his unit. Later, seeing a Sherman tank stuck in a minefield, Basilone ran in front of it under fire, guiding it safely through while directing its firepower against Japanese positions. These actions epitomized his character, calm under fire, decisive in chaos, and utterly fearless in the face of death. But fate, which had spared him at Guadalcanal, finally caught up with him at Iwo Jima. Shortly after leading his men off the beach and destroying the blockhouse, Basilone was struck and killed by enemy mortar fire. He was only 27 years old. For his actions on Iwo Jima, he was posthumously awarded the Navy Cross, making him the only enlisted Marine in World War II to receive both the Medal of Honor and the Navy Cross. His death shocked those who knew him, but his legacy endured. To his comrades, he was not just a hero but a Marine's Marine, someone who lived and died by the ethos of selflessness, courage, and devotion to duty. John Basilone's story is not just about medals or battles. It is about the spirit of one man whose determination and sacrifice embodied the very best of the Marine Corps and the United States. He showed that even in the darkest moments of war, individual courage can make the difference between victory and defeat. His name lives on not only in the annals of Marine Corps history, but also in the ship that bears his name, the USS John Basilone, commissioned in his honor. Today, historians remember him not simply as the most brutal Marine, but as a symbol of the extraordinary resilience of ordinary men in extraordinary circumstances. His story asks us to consider what courage really means. It was not brutality that made him unstoppable, but a willingness to endure, to lead, and to sacrifice for others. In the mud of Guadalcanal and the black sands of Iwo Jima, John Basilone proved that one man could hold the line, inspire his comrades, and shape the course of history.